Welcome back to Stamping at the Warren, and I'm Kim Tolton, and yes, I'm still very croaky, so please bear with me. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Today I am making a card that uses the Botanical framelits or thinlits dies, framelits dies, yeah, and there's 14 dies in the pack that make a whole range of different floral accents for a card. I'm just using this one flower, which is actually made up of 3 elements, and I'm also using the edge lit die here that creates this beautiful leaf edge. And I've just got some very simple, and congratulations on your wedding, or it could be for an anniversary or an engagement perhaps, and that's from the For the New 2 stamp set. Which is in the annual catalogue and has lots of different different stamps that you can use, but I'm keeping this really clean and simple. There is another version of the card coming up later in the week, which is white on white, so watch out for that one. But I'm using Lost Lagoon as the background for today's card, and I'm just going to zoom in for you so you can see the detail on this this flower. It really is rather beautiful. So if I bring it up, you see it, there you go. It's really 3-dimensional and it's just beautiful. I'll just zoom you back out. Right, so that's what we're making, and it is actually much more simple than you would imagine. And here we go. So to start off with, you just want to make your card base. So you want a piece of thicker whisper white cardstock that measures 21 centimetres by 14.8 centimetres, and then you score that long side at 10.5 centimetres. That's just a regular A6 card. If you're using inches, your matte layers go down by 1/4 inch each time. You then want your matte layer, and we can adhere that straight down onto this base, and that is 14.4 by 10.1 centimetres, and I'm using fast fuse. I love fast fuse, particularly when I'm doing demonstrations, because it's so quick and easy to use. And the replacement cartridges actually hold much more adhesive than the beginner cassette that has the case. So pop this down, and everything really sticks well. You can't use heavy embellishments with it, but Crystal Effects works for that job. Right, so that's your first layer. Your next layer, which is the one we're going to be die cutting first, is 14 centimetres by 9.7. Yeah, 14 by 9.7. And what you just want to decide is how much of an edge and where do you want your edge. And the critical thing, these are the blades here, so if you can see them there, so you want them to make sure it's always blade down. And the thing that you want to know really before you plan whereabouts or which angle you're going to have that, okay, so just decide how much white you want. But there is 2 little bits that extend on either side of this die. You want to make sure that both sides have a piece of that going across on your card front. So you can see this is really made ideally for an A6 card, but there's no reason why you couldn't then move the die and move it along and just keep going as long as you want, really. So I am going to go with something probably along those lines, but you just need to make sure those edge tabs are overlapping. So I'm going to bring my Big Shot up. I have to use shims with my Big Shot. I've got plastic ones, but you can just use a piece of cardstock, and the only reason I use them is because my Big Shot has been very well used, and it's just got a little bit loose, as we all do as we get older. And I didn't bring my acrylic plates over. Hold on a moment. Or I have, and I can't see them. Yeah, I have. They're right here. Right, so these are my shims, but you can just replace that with cardstock. Ideally you want to have either the magnetic platform or the precision plate in place. Put your first cutting plate down, and then you want your piece of cardstock, your Whisper White. Now I have pre-trimmed this to 14 by 9.7 centimetres, and then, as I mentioned earlier, just make sure that these little tabs overlap the edge. And then your second acrylic plate goes down. If you're using shims, and you pop that in at the same time. And through it goes. I tend to always go one way and then back the other. The Big Shot can go down. Remove your die and the waste bit and pop that down so it's out of the way. There we go. And there you have your edge. Ta-da! Isn't that pretty? So I'm just using a bit of fast fuse along here, along that base edge, and then across the top edge, and pop that down in place. So that's the basic card. Now we're going to do the element in the centre here. So the bits that you want for that are these guys here. If you get lots of little bits of paper left in your die, just give it a little bit of a knock on the side of your table and they'll flick out, as long as you don't mind a bit of, waste on the floor and sweep up. So there's a large leaf and a small leaf, so you want one each of those. You want one of the middle-sized flower, and then you want this detailed centre piece for the flower. So the Big Shot does now come back up. Move this out of the way so we don't get marks on it. And it's the same sandwich as before. And with this one, you can put your cardstock in, and you can put all of the dies down. Because it's a magnetic plate, they tend to stay in place, which is what you want. So you're going to do one of each and just slot them all on. And then top cutting plate, and obviously I've got my shims on there. I keep holding off getting a replacement Big Shot. I know I will have to, but I'm hoping I'll put in a big order when the new annual catalogue comes through. Well, I'm not hoping, I'm sure I shall, when the new annual catalogue comes in later this year. and I may be able to get my big shop free or half price. So one of the perks of ordering through Stampin' Up and earning Stampin' rewards. And that's everybody. You don't have to be a demonstrator to get that benefit. Now you could keep these, the negative pieces of the die cuts, and you could use those to for sponging, that sort of thing. So use them as a, what's the word? Oh dear, my brain is a little bit dead where I'm feeling a bit poorly. Take your dies off, and then that's it. We're finished with that for today. So you want a card in, pop out your flower, and there's the middle bit. Most of them fall out as you're taking them off the plate, so just be cautious of where they're flying. There's my middle bit and the two leaves. And then just make sure that you put your dies away, because with 14 some of them are really quite tiny, and you may just find yourself losing them. Right, I tend to build my flowers using Stampin' Dimensionals, so it gives a real lift to the project. Especially important when you're using white elements, because for me the flower is the star of this card, so you want to make it pop up. And all I'm doing here is using my bone folder just to curl the edges of that little flower a bit. So you take your large leaf and your small leaf, and on your small leaf just pop a couple of dimensionals on the back, so one at the top, one in the middle. Take the backing off, and then just mount that slightly offset on top of the first leaf there. Then with your little flower you're going to pop a Stampin' Dimensional on the back here, and don't worry about the fact that it overlaps a little bit, you will not see it. And this goes down in the centre, and then what you want to do is these little septums here, you just want to give them a little bit of a flick up just to make them stand up a little bit more, and pop a dimensional right in the middle on that bottom. And lastly another couple of dimensionals just on the large flower, back of the large flower, and you can build. So start with where you want your leaf to be. So I'm going to go roughly there. So it just overlaps the Lost Lagoon bit there. Take the backing off of your flower and pop that down there again, so it's coming right up to the edge of that card there, and a nice rhinestone to go in the middle of that flower to give it a bit of sparkle. And then your last job, and I've left it till last on purpose because where you place your stamp could change depending on this element here. So just open your card base up so that this is nice and flat. I used basic grey last time. I didn't think it gave enough of a pop-up, so this time I'm using basic black ink. and I'm using the sentiment that says, may your heart be full of a long and happy life together. So I'm going to check that it's Stampin' Out okay on there first, which it is. Ink it up again. You might notice I don't go very hard with my stamps when I'm inking them up. You don't need it if you go too much. If you put too much pressure on the stamping up of your ink pad, you'll end up with unsightly bits around the outside, or the image might get distorted. So, and there you go. And that is your card for today. Hopefully you like that. You'll see that there's a theme going through most of the cards of this week, which is around love and Valentine's and that sort of thing. But I hope you like that. The full tutorial with the dimensions and everything will be on my blog. It goes live at the same time as this post, and you can find all of my social media account details in the show more section of today's blog. You're very welcome, and I look forward to and enjoy getting feedback and comments from you all. I love to make contact with people, get to know people, because I rarely leave my home because of my disabilities. So this is a really important format for me to make contact with people and make new friends. So that's it for today, and I will see you again tomorrow with another project. Ta-ta for now.